Today, we're going to discuss the incredible diversity of Africa. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments section. Let's begin our story for today. If you grew up in most parts of the world outside Africa, you might have been exposed to the mindset that Africa is a homogeneous continent, or that it lacks any civilization at all. Now, I'd imagine you probably know that that's not remotely true, which is a good thing, because this massive continent is home to a huge variety of different cultures that I think could use some time in the spotlight. First, let's get some scale with this thing, something we all probably already know, but that we don't really think about all that much is just how big Africa is. Africa has a surface area of 30 million square kilometers, making it the second largest continent on Earth, behind of course Asia. Way larger than North America, and almost twice as large as South America. Normally at this point, I suppose I'd compare Africa to countries like trying to fit as many Chinas and Russias as I can. But Africa is big enough to fit all of Europe and Oceania with almost enough room to squeeze in Antarctica. In fact, Africa is approximately 8 million square kilometers short of equaling the size of the Moon. Forget Russia and their whole thing of being bigger than Pluto. Africa is playing the real game here. Africa is pretty damn big. So you could probably also imagine that it has a pretty diverse collection of cultures, especially with their massive population. Africa is home to a rapidly increasing population of 1.2 billion, which, although smaller than India and China, is still bigger than all of Luxembourg, Tuvalu, Brunei, Liechtenstein, and the Americas combined. Of course, probably the best way for us to tackle a subject like this would be to first divide Africa into some more bite-sized pieces. There are numerous ways to divide Africa, including poorly. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to go with the regions assigned by the African Union to better categorize its member nations: North, East, Central, West, and Southern Africa. So first we start in North Africa and the countries of Egypt, Libya, Tunisia, Algeria and Morocco, and possibly also Mauritania and Sudan, depending on who you ask. Also, no comments on the whole Western Sahara thing. These nations all occupy various parts of the mighty Sahara Desert, and all have strong Arabic influences, with all of them, at least partially speaking Arabic, and all but having Islam as the official state religion, in contrast to the more Christian and native religion-based regions south of the Sahel, and also hence why South Sudan wasn't fully comfortable being inside of Sudan. This region has had extensive contact with Europe and Western Asia for thousands of years, having been part of European and Middle Eastern empires before colonialism was in fashion. Most of these countries, aside from Egypt and Sudan, are also part of a region known as Maghreb, essentially the western part of the Arab world, though they also have long histories with the native Berber or Amazigh peoples. They're actually a very interesting people group, but of course, they're far from the only interesting culture in Africa. Next, we head to East Africa, most likely where the human race first evolved and now home to South Sudan, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Djibouti, Somalia, Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi and Madagascar, and possibly also including Mozambique, Malawi, Zambia and Zimbabwe. Again, depending on who you ask, this region notably includes the Horn of Africa and the Great African Lakes, including Lake Turkana, Lake Ukerewe, known as Victoria, Tanganyika and Malawi. In the north of this region, people generally speak Afroasiatic languages like Somali, Amharic, and Tigrinya, as well as a minority of those who speak their distant linguistic relative, Arabic. Many in this region also speak various Nilo-Saharan languages, and Madagascar's Malagasy language is actually an Austronesian language technically more closely related to Malay and Hawaiian. The south, however, is much more dominated by the Congo-Bantu languages, with by far the most prevalent at 80 million speakers, being, of course, Swahili, spoken as an official language in Kenya, Tanzania and Uganda. This area was also dominated by the Swahili city-states who had lucrative trading relations all across the Indian Ocean. Also, I definitely keep an eye on this region in the coming decades, especially with the rise of the East African Federation. In Central Africa, we have Angola, Cameroon, the Central African Republic, Chad, DRC of Congo and the Republic of the Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Gabon and São Tomé and Príncipe. All members of the Economic Community of Central African States, ECAS. With the addition of Rwanda, Burundi, perhaps not too surprisingly, this region is primarily home to Niger-Congo language speakers, as in between the Niger and Congo rivers. Speaking of said rivers, this region is also home to the Congo Basin itself, home to one of the largest rainforests in the world. Oh, and check out, it means lake. Let's establish some sick empires here and also down in Congo. On to West Africa, and we see a lot of smaller nations, namely Benin, Burkina Faso, Cape Verde, Ivory Coast, the Gambia, Ghana, Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Mali, Niger, Nigeria, Senegal, Sierra Leone and Togo, all of which being members of the Economic Community of West African States, or ECOWAS. This region was home to many large empires throughout history, including those of the Songhai, Ghana, Oyo and Mali empires, the latter of which having at one point been ruled by the richest man in the world, Mansa Musa. Because of things like gold and salt, this region has a population of nearly 400 million. It is crazily diverse in terms of languages and cultures and could honestly deserve a video of its own. Given that there are over 500 languages spoken in Nigeria alone. West Africa is also ecologically diverse, straddling the end of the Sahara Desert to the north and the beginning of the rainforest to the south, separated by a region known as the Sahel. Finally, we reach Southern Africa, whose boundaries are somewhat vague but include South Africa, obviously Lesotho, Eswatini, Botswana, Namibia, and possibly also Angola, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Mozambique and Malawi. These nations are all part of the South African Development Community alongside DRC of Congo, Tanzania, Comoros, Mauritius and Seychelles. The first 5 nations, however, are also part of the South African Customs Union, and they all have very diverse cultural and linguistic backgrounds in their own right. Bantu languages are widespread throughout this region, but Khoisan languages are also spoken in the Kalahari Desert. However, it should be noted that the Khoisan language family is no longer popular and nowadays actually refers to multiple different language families. Nonetheless, these groups, including mainly the Khoi and the San, speak languages such as Nama or Damara and Sandawe. More languages that are widely spoken are Soto, Swati, Shona, Tsenga, Nanja, Bemba, Chewa, Swana, Sangha, Venda, Tumbuka, Ndebele, Zulu, Xhosa. Most of these languages are, in fact, the famous clicking languages of Southern Africa, more or less the only of their kind in the world. If you have watched this video up to this point, it shows that you're one of the rare 0.01% who finish what they start. So, my friend, if you're serious about learning more about Africa, make sure to join our movement by leaving a follow and also liking our new Facebook page, Gogo Africa. Do the right thing now. Thank you.